Jake Martinez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he climbed deeper into the massive pile of broken starship parts. The scrapyard on New Haven Station stretched for miles in every direction, filled with twisted metal and dead engines from 1,000 different worlds. Jake had been working here for 3 years, searching through the junk to find anything valuable enough to sell. The asteroid mining station floated in the darkness between worlds, far from any major trade routes. Most people who ended up here were running from something or had nowhere else to go. Jake fell into the second group. He needed the job to send money back to Earth, where his little sister Katie was fighting a disease that cost more to treat. But most people made in a lifetime. Today felt different somehow. Jake's scanner kept picking up strange energy readings from deep within Section 7 of the yard. His supervisor Pete Collins had told him to ignore it, saying the old scanners picked up false signals all the time. But Jake trusted his gut, and his gut told him something important was buried under all that metal. He pushed aside a bent piece of hull plating and crawled through a narrow gap between 2 crushed engines. The energy reading grew stronger with each step. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing layer after layer of discarded technology from dozens of different alien races. Then he saw it, hidden beneath. The wreckage of what looked like a cargo ship was something that made his heart race. It was smooth and white, about the size of a small room, with strange symbols glowing faintly along its surface. Jake had never seen anything like it, but he knew valuable alien tech when he found it. This could be worth enough to pay for Katie's treatment, and maybe even get him off this rock. Jake cleared away more debris, working carefully to avoid damaging whatever lay beneath. As he moved a large piece of twisted metal, the white object became fully visible. It wasn't just technology. It was some kind of pod or container. The symbols on its surface pulsed with a soft blue light, and Jake could hear a faint humming sound coming from inside. He ran his scanner over the surface and nearly dropped the device when he saw the results. The readings showed life signs. Something was alive inside that pod. Jake's hands shook as he searched for some kind of opening. The smooth surface seemed solid, but as his fingers traced the glowing symbols, one section suddenly became transparent. Inside, floating in a clear liquid, was a girl. She looked young, maybe 17 or 18, but definitely not human. Her skin had a strange quality to it, like it was made of tiny crystals that caught and reflected light. It shifted colors, slowly from pale blue to silver to green. Her hair was white as snow and seemed to float around her head even in the liquid. She was thin, too thin, and Jake could see dark bruises covering her arms and legs. Jake pressed his face against the transparent section, trying to get a better look. The girl's eyes were closed, but he could see her chest rising and falling slowly. She was breathing, or at least the alien equivalent of breathing. The pod was keeping her alive, but barely. He stepped back and looked around the scrapyard. His mind raced with possibilities. If he reported this find to Commander Lisa Brooks, the station administrator, he would get a finder's fee. But he knew what happened to alien artifacts on New Haven. They got shipped off to military research facilities where scientists would take them apart to see how they worked. If this girl was still alive, they would probably do the same thing to her. Jake had heard the stories from other workers. Anything alien that showed up on New Haven disappeared into the military labs. The official word was always that they were studying the technology to help humanity. But Jake had seen the fear in people's eyes when they talked about what really happened in those labs. He looked back at the girl in the pod. She seemed so peaceful, floating there in the blue-tinted liquid. But even unconscious, Jake could see the pain in her face. Whatever had happened to her, it had been bad. Really bad. The smart thing would be to report the find and take the money. Jake needed that money more than most people needed anything. Katie's treatments were getting more expensive, and the doctor said she only had a few months left without the new therapy that cost more than Jake made in 5 years. But as he looked at the alien girl, Jake thought about Katie, his little sister. Had always been kind to everyone, even the kids at school who made fun of her for being sick. She would give away her lunch to hungry kids, even when she barely had enough energy to eat her own food. Katie would never forgive him if she knew he had handed over an innocent girl to be tortured in some lab. Jake made his decision. He spent the next hour figuring out how to move the pod. It was heavy, but the station's low gravity made it possible for one person to handle. He used a portable lift to get it onto a cargo sled, then covered it with scrap metal to hide it from the security cameras. Getting it to his quarters took 3 trips through the maintenance tunnels that ran under the workers' section of the station. Jake knew those tunnels better than anyone. He had been using them to avoid his roommate Danny Walsh when Danny brought home his loud friends. By the time Jake got the pod hidden in the storage room next to his quarters, his shift was almost over. He sat on his bunk and stared at the door to the storage room, wondering what he had gotten himself into. Tomorrow, he would have to figure out how to wake up an alien girl without killing her. Tonight, he just hoped he had made the right choice. Jake spent the whole night reading everything he could find about alien life support systems on the station's computer network. Most of the information was classified, but his salvage worker access let him see basic technical manuals. He learned that most alien pods had emergency wake-up procedures built in, but activating them wrong could kill whoever was inside. When morning came, Jake told his supervisor, Pete Collins, that he was feeling sick and needed the day off. Pete grumbled about it, but let him go. Jake rushed back to his quarters, where Danny Walsh was getting ready for his own shift in the engine maintenance section. "You look terrible," Danny said, pulling on his work boots. "Maybe you really are sick. Just need some rest," Jake replied, trying to act normal. "See you tonight." After Danny left, Jake went into the storage room where the pod waited under a pile of old blankets. The girl inside looked the same as yesterday, pale, injured, and unconscious. But the pod's energy readings were getting weaker. Whatever was keeping her alive was running out of power. Jake found what looked like a control panel on the side of the pod. The symbols were completely alien, but some of them pulsed brighter when he touched them. He pressed the brightest symbol and held his breath. The pod made a soft sound, like air being released. The transparent section opened like a flower, and the liquid inside began to drain away. The girl's eyes fluttered open. They were the most beautiful eyes Jake had ever seen, bright violet with flecks of silver that seemed to move like tiny stars. But when she saw Jake, those beautiful eyes filled with terror. She tried to sit up too fast and nearly fell out of the pod. Jake reached out to steady her, but she flinched away from his touch and said something in a language that sounded like wind chimes mixed with whispers. Her skin, which had been pale blue, suddenly turned bright red. "It's okay," Jake said softly, holding up his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you." The girl pressed herself against the back of the pod, breathing hard. Her skin kept changing colors, red to orange to yellow to green. Jake realized the colors must show what she was feeling. Right now, she was scared out of her mind. "My name is Jake," he said, pointing to himself. "Jake." She stared at him for a long moment, then pointed to herself and said something that sounded like Zara. Her voice was soft and musical, but Jake could hear the fear in it. "Zara," Jake repeated, and she nodded slightly. Her skin shifted to a lighter shade of green. Jake slowly reached for a water bottle on his desk. Zara tensed up, but when she saw what he was offering, she reached out with shaking hands. She drank the whole bottle in one go, then looked at him. with something that might have been gratitude. Over the next few hours, Jake tried to take care of Zara as best he could. She was weak and could barely stand on her own. Her legs were covered with dark bruises, and one of her arms hung at an odd angle. Jake used his basic first aid training to make a simple splint, and Zara let him do it without fighting. She was clearly very smart. Within a day, she was picking up English words and trying to repeat them. Jake pointed to different objects and said their names. Zara would listen carefully, then say the word back with a musical accent that made even simple. Words sound beautiful. Water, Jake would say, holding up a bottle. Water, Zara would repeat, her skin turning a soft blue color that Jake was learning meant she was calm. Food, Jake said, offering her a ration bar. Food, she said, then added something in her own language before trying the bar. She made a face at the taste, and Jake couldn't help but laugh. Zara looked surprised at the sound. Then her skin turned a warm golden color dot by the third day. Zara could say simple sentences in English. Jake learned that her people were called Catherians, and that she was 17 years old. She had been running from something called the Dominion when her ship crashed. She didn't know where she was or how long she had been unconscious. Dominion bad, she said, her skin turning dark red when she mentioned them. Kill my family. Kill my home. Jake felt his heart break for her. She was just a kid who had lost everything. He told her about Katie and how he was working to help his sick sister. Zara listened carefully, her skin turning soft purple. You good person, she said in her musical voice. Help sister. Help me. Why? Jake thought about how to explain it. In simple words, because it's right, he said finally. Because you needed help. Zara stared at him for a long time. Dominion say humans bad, say humans hurt aliens. Take everything. Some humans are bad, Jake admitted, but not all of us. That night, while Zara slept on Jake's bunk, he sat on the floor and watched her. Her skin glowed softly in the dark, cycling through gentle blues and purples. She looked so young and fragile, but Jake could see strength in her too. She had survived whatever the Dominion had done to her people, escaped across space, and was now learning to trust someone from a species she had been taught to fear. On the fourth day, Danny Walsh came home early from his shift. Jake was in the main room, teaching Zara how to use the food printer. When the door opened, Danny stopped in the doorway, his mouth hanging open. Zara's skin flashed bright yellow. The color Jake had learned meant surprise or shock. Jake, Danny said slowly, what the hell is that? Her name is Zara, Jake said, moving protectively in front of the alien girl. And she's my friend. Danny looked from Jake to Zara and back again. Do you know what Commander Brooks would pay for her? Do you know how much trouble we could get in for hiding her? Danny, please, Jake said. She's hurt and scared. If we turn her in, they'll dissect her in some lab. Zara understood enough of the conversation to know they were talking about her. Her skin had turned deep red, and she was backing toward the storage room. Danny stared at her for a long moment. Then, at Jake. You've lost your mind, he said. But you're my friend, so I won't say anything. Yet, but Jake, this can't last forever. Sooner or later, someone's going to find out. Jake knew Danny was right. But as he looked at Zara, whose skin was slowly turning back to blue as she realized Danny wasn't going to hurt her, he also knew he couldn't give up on her. Not yet. 2 weeks passed, and Zara grew stronger every day. Her broken arm healed much faster than a human's would have, and the bruises on her legs faded to light purple marks. Jake learned that Catherians had natural healing abilities, but they worked best when the person felt safe and cared for. Zara's English improved quickly, too. She could now have real conversations with Jake, though she still mixed in Cytherian words when she got excited or upset. Jake found himself looking forward to coming home from work, just to see her face light up when he walked through the door. Her skin would turn warm gold whenever she saw him, and she had stopped trying to hide the color changes. In Cytherian culture, she explained one evening as they shared dinner, showing emotions through skin color is very personal, like humans showing their hearts to someone. Jake felt his own heart skip a beat at that. So when your skin turns gold around me, ... It means I trust you, Zara said softly. It means you make me feel safe and happy. Jake had never felt anything like what he felt for Zara. She was smart and funny, and she saw the world in ways that amazed him. When he showed her music from Earth, she listened with her whole body, her skin shifting through every color of the rainbow. When he read her stories, she would close her eyes and let the words paint pictures in her mind. Zara helped Jake with his work too. Her knowledge of alien technology was incredible. She could look at a broken engine and immediately see what was wrong with it. She showed him how to improve his salvage operations, helping him find valuable parts that other workers missed. Cytherian. Children learn about technology like human children learn to walk, she explained. We need to understand machines to survive on colony worlds. Thanks to Zara's help, Jake's productivity increased so much that Pete Collins actually gave him a bonus. For the first time in months, Jake was able to send extra money to Katie. His sister's last message had been full of hope. The doctors said her treatments were working better than expected, but they're peaceful. Life couldn't last forever. Danny Walsh had kept their secret, but Jake could see the worry in his friend's eyes. Danny jumped every time someone knocked on their door, and he had started spending more time away from their quarters. The security sweeps are getting more frequent, Danny warned Jake one night after Zara had gone to sleep. Commander Brooks has been asking questions about unusual energy readings. In the residential section, Jake felt ice form in his stomach. What kind of questions? She wants to know if anyone has seen strange lights or heard weird sounds. And Chief Adams has been checking the maintenance tunnels. They know something's here, Jake. They just don't know what yet. The next morning brought worse news. Jake arrived at work to find Pete Collins in a panic. Brooks is conducting random quarters inspections, Pete said. Something about security violations. She's starting with the worker housing blocks this afternoon. Jake felt the world tilt around him. If Commander Brooks searched their quarters, she would find Zara, and Jake knew exactly what would happen next. The Military Research Division would take Zara away, and Jake would probably never see her again. He made an excuse about feeling sick and rushed home. Zara took one look at his face and knew something was wrong. What happened? She asked, her skin shifting to worried purple. Jake explained the situation as calmly as he could. Zara listened without saying a word, but her skin grew darker with each detail. I have to leave, she said finally. You have done enough for me. I will not let you get in trouble because of me. No, Jake said firmly. We'll figure something out. Maybe we can hide you in the storage areas near the outer hull. But even as he said it, Jake knew it wouldn't work. The security teams had scanners that could detect life signs through walls. Wherever they hid Zara, the search teams would eventually find her. Zara seemed to read his thoughts. She reached out and took his hand, something she had never done before. Her skin was warm and had a texture like very fine sand. Jake, she said softly, in my culture, we believe that some meetings are meant to happen. The universe brings people together when they need each other most. What are you saying? Jake asked, though part of him already knew. I am saying that meeting you saved my life in more ways than one. You showed me that not all humans are monsters. You gave me hope when I thought I had lost everything. Jake squeezed her hand. You saved me too. Before I met you, I was just going through the motions. Working, sleeping, sending money home. You made me remember what it feels like to really care about someone. Zara's skin turned the brightest gold Jake had ever seen. Is that what this feeling is? This warmth in my chest when I look at you? I think so, Jake said. I think that's what humans call love. Love, Zara repeated, testing the word. Yes, I think I love you too, Jake Martinez. They might have stayed there forever, holding hands and staring into each other's eyes, but the sound of boots in the corridor outside snapped them back to reality. Security sweep, a voice called from outside. Open up for inspection. Jake and Zara looked at each other in panic. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. After 2 weeks of safety, their time had finally run out. The door chimed as someone pressed the entry button. Coming, Jake called out, his mind racing. Maybe he could convince the security team that he was alone. Maybe he could distract them. Long enough for Zara to escape through the maintenance hatch in the storage room doubt. But as he reached for the door control, Jake realized he wasn't ready to say goodbye. Not to Zara, and not to the life they had started to build together. He turned back to her, memorizing every detail of her face. Whatever happens, he said, I want you to know that these have been the best 2 weeks of my life. Zara's skin shifted through a dozen colors before settling on deep blue. Mine too, she whispered. The door chimed again, more insistently. This time, Jake took a deep breath and prepared to open the door to whatever came next. Jake's hand froze on the door control as Danny Walsh's voice came through the speaker. Jake, it's me. Let me in, quick. Jake opened the door to find Danny looking panicked and out of breath. Behind him, the corridor was empty, but they could hear voices and footsteps getting closer. They're 2 levels down and working their way up, Danny said as he rushed inside. Chief Adams is with them, and he's got the heavy scanners, a kind that can see through walls. Zara stepped out of the storage room, her skin cycling rapidly through different colors. How long do we have? She asked. Maybe 10 minutes, Danny replied. Maybe less. Jake's mind raced. 10 minutes wasn't enough time to get Zara off the station, but maybe it was enough to get her somewhere safer. He thought about the maintenance tunnels, the cargo bays, the outer hull sections where workers rarely went. The disposal chutes, he said suddenly. There's an old maintenance shuttle in Bay 7 that's scheduled to be scrapped next week. If we can get Zara there, maybe she can hide until the search passes. That's on the other side of the station. Danny protested. We'll never make it through the corridors without being seen. Then we don't use the corridors, Jake said. We use the tunnels. Zara looked confused. Tunnels? Maintenance access ways, Jake explained quickly. A run behind. The walls and under the floors. I know them better than anyone. The sound of boots was getting closer. They were out of time for planning. Jake grabbed a bag and started throwing supplies into it. Water, food rations, a portable medical kit, and the scanner he used for salvage work. Danny helped by gathering tools and spare clothes. I'm coming. With you, Danny announced. No, Jake said. If you're not here when they search, they'll know you helped us. You need to stay and act normal. Jake's right, Zara added. Her skin had settled into determined blue. You have already risked too much for me. Danny looked like he wanted to argue, but voices in the corridor were getting very close. He grabbed Jake's arm. There's something else you need to know, Danny sighed quietly. I heard Chief Adams talking to Commander Brooks. She's not just looking for alien tech anymore. She thinks there might be a spy on the station. Someone working for alien forces. Jake felt his blood turn to ice. If they caught him with Zara, they wouldn't just ship her off to a research lab. They would probably execute him as a traitor. Bay 7, Danny continued. The shuttle's ID number is NT-47. It's old but functional. If you can get the engine started, it might be able to reach the outer asteroid belt. Thank you, Zara said to Danny. Her skin flashed grateful gold. You are a good friend. Danny smiled sadly. Just try not to get yourselves killed, okay? Jake led Zara to the maintenance hatch in the storage room. The opening was just big enough for them to crawl through, leading into a narrow tunnel that ran behind the walls. Jake had used these passages hundreds of times, but never with someone else, and never while trying to stay hidden from security teams. They crawled in silence through the dark tunnels, Jake leading the way with a small flashlight. Behind them, they could hear muffled voices as the security team searched their quarters. Jake hoped Danny would be able to convince them that everything was normal. The tunnel system was like a maze, with passages branching off in every direction. Some led to electrical systems, others to air recycling units or water processing plants. Jake knew exactly where each one went, but explaining the route to Zara would take too long. She would have to trust him completely. After 20 minutes of crawling, they reached a junction where the tunnel opened into a larger maintenance corridor. Jake could hear the hum of the station's engines and feel the vibration of heavy machinery. They were getting close to the industrial section. How much further? Zara whispered. Not far, Jake replied, but this next part is dangerous. We have to cross through a section where workers might see us. They climbed out of the tunnel into the maintenance corridor. The walls were lined with pipes and cables, and the air smelled like oil and metal. Jake checked his scanner for life signs and saw several people working in nearby areas. Stay close and move quietly, he told Zara. They crept through the corridor, stopping every few meters to listen for footsteps or voices. Once, they had to hide behind a large air processing unit when a maintenance worker walked past. Zara pressed against Jake in the cramped hiding space, and he could feel her heart beating fast. Finally, they reached Bay 7. A shuttle NT-47 sat in the middle of the bay, looking old and battered but functional. It was about the size of a small apartment, with engines on the back and a small cargo area inside. It's perfect, Zara said, running her hands over the hull. The design is simple but efficient. I can modify the navigation system to avoid the main shipping lanes. Jake used his salvage tools to open the shuttle's door. Inside, the cabin was basic but clean. There were 2 pilot seats, a small sleeping area, and storage compartments for supplies. Can you really fly this thing? Jake asked as Zara began examining the control panels. Kitherian children learn to pilot ships before they learn to walk, she said with a small smile. But I will need help with some of the modifications. They worked together for the next hour, preparing the shuttle for launch. Zara's knowledge of alien technology was incredible. She could improve systems that human engineers had designed, making them more efficient and harder to detect. Jake loaded their supplies and checked the fuel levels. The shuttle had enough power to reach the asteroid belt, but not much further. They would need to find somewhere to refuel, or at least somewhere to hide while they figured out their next move. Jake, Zara said softly as they finished their preparations. Are you sure about this? Once we leave the station, there's no going back. You'll be a fugitive. Jake looked at her, this brave alien girl who had risked everything to escape from people who wanted to destroy her. Her skin was shifting through nervous colors, but her eyes were steady and determined. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, he said. Zara's skin turned bright gold as she reached out to take his hand. Then let's go find ourselves a new home. Jake started the shuttle's engines, and they lifted off from the bay floor. As they headed toward the station's outer airlock, alarms began to sound throughout New Haven. They found our quarters empty, Jake said, checking the scanner. Security ships are launching. Let them come, Zara replied, her hands dancing over the navigation controls. I know these asteroid fields better than any human pilot. The shuttle shot out of New Haven Station and into the darkness of space, with Jake and Zara together at the controls, heading toward an uncertain but hopeful future among the stars. 3 days into their flight through the asteroid belt, Jake and Zara's stolen shuttle was running on emergency power. The military patrol ships had been hunting them relentlessly, forcing them deeper and deeper into the most dangerous parts of the asteroid field, where the rocks were so thick that radar barely worked. Jake piloted the shuttle between two massive asteroids while Zara worked on the navigation system. Her skin had been cycling through worried colors for hours as she tried to find them a safe place to land and recharge. There, she said suddenly, pointing to her scanner. That asteroid has artificial structures on it, old ones but still functional. Jake looked where she was pointing and saw a small asteroid that looked different from the others. Instead of being just rock and ice, it had metal structures built into its surface. Docking bays, antenna arrays, and what looked like living quarters. It's a research station, Zara continued, her skin brightening with hope. Cytherian design. It must have been abandoned when the Dominion attacked our colonies. Is it safe? Jake asked as he steered toward the asteroid. It should be. Cytherian stations have automated defenses and life support systems. If it recognizes my genetic signature, it will let us dock. As they approached the station, Jake could see that it was bigger than it had looked from a distance. The asteroid was maybe a mile across, with the research facility built into natural caves and crevices in the rock. It looked like it could house hundreds of people, but Jake's scanner showed no life signs at all. A beam of light shot out from the station and swept over their shuttle. Jake tensed, but Zara put a calming hand on his arm. It's just scanning. US, she explained. The computer needs to identify who we are before it will open the docking bay. A moment later, a section of the asteroid's surface slid open, revealing a landing bay large enough for their shuttle. Automated systems guided them inside, and the bay doors closed behind them. Jake felt his ears pop as the bay filled with breathable air. According to his instruments, the atmosphere was safe for both humans and Cytherians. Welcome to Research Station Kepler 7, a pleasant voice said in accented English as they climbed out of the shuttle. I am the station computer. Designation: Aria. Genetic scan confirms Cytherian refugee Zara of the Centauri colony. Access granted to all station facilities. Zara's skin flashed surprised yellow. It knows me, she said. It knows about my colony. This station maintains contact with all Cytherian settlements, Aria explained. I have been monitoring refugee movements since the Dominion attacks began. Zara of Centauri colony, you are listed as missing and presumed dead. Several other survivors from your colony will be pleased to know you are alive. Other survivors? Zara gasped, grabbing Jake's hand. There are others? Indeed. 47 survivors from Centauri colony have been relocated to various refugee communities throughout the galaxy. Additionally, there are currently 1,247 other Cytherian refugees in communication with this network. Jake watched Zara's face light up with joy, her skin cycling through every happy color he had ever seen. She wasn't alone. Her people weren't extinct. There were other Cytherians out there, surviving and rebuilding. Aria, Zara said, this is Jake Martinez. He saved my life and helped me escape from a human mining station. Can you provide him with access to station facilities? Scanning, Aria replied. After a moment, the computer continued. Jake Martinez of Earth. No criminal record. Employment history shows 3 years of honest work on New Haven Station. Recently reported as wanted for theft of alien technology and suspected espionage. However, refugee testimony indicates these charges are false. Refugee testimony? Jake asked. Several Cytherian refugees have reported being helped by humans who asked for nothing in return. Your actions fit this pattern of selfless assistance. Jake Martinez, you are welcome on this station. Over the next few days, Jake and Zara explored their new home. The research station was amazing. It had laboratories, living quarters, gardens, where food grew under artificial suns, and a library that contained the collected knowledge of dozens of alien civilizations. But the most important discovery came when Zara accessed the station's communication network. She was able to contact other Cytherian refugees, including some from her own colony, who she had thought were dead. My teacher is alive, she told Jake excitedly, after a long conversation with someone on a distant world. And my friend Kess, and her whole family. They made it to a safe colony near the Vega system. I'm so happy for you, Jake said, and he meant it. But part of him worried that now that Zara knew her people were alive, she might want to leave to find them. As if reading his thoughts, Zara took his hand. They want to meet you, she said. All of them. Word is spreading through the refugee network about the human who risked everything to save a Cytherian girl. Some of the older refugees still believe humans are dangerous, but stories like ours are changing their minds. What do you mean, stories like ours? Jake asked. Zara's skin turned soft pink. The color Jake had learned meant love and affection. I mean the story of a human and a Cytherian who found each other when they both needed someone most. Who proved that love can exist between any two people, no matter where they come from. 3 weeks later, Danny Walsh arrived at the station in a small cargo ship. Jake was amazed to see his friend, and even more amazed by the ship full of supplies Danny had brought. Turns out a lot of people on New Haven thought what you did was pretty brave, Danny explained as they unloaded medical supplies and food. When word got out that you had helped an alien refugee, some folks started asking why we treat aliens like enemies instead of just people who need help. What about Commander Brooks? Jake asked. Still looking for you, but not as hard as before. She's got bigger problems now. 3 more refugee ships have shown up asking for sanctuary, and the civilian population is demanding that we help them instead of turning them away. Danny stayed for a week, helping Jake and Zara set up equipment for a permanent communication relay. By the time he left, the station was in contact with refugee communities across half the galaxy. 6 months later, Jake stood in the station's main garden, watching Zara teach a group of young Cytherian refugees about human culture. Her skin glowed with happiness as she explained human music to the children, who listened with wide eyes. Jake, Arya's voice said from the speakers around the garden. Incoming transmission from the Vega refugee community. They are requesting permission to establish a permanent diplomatic mission here. Permission granted, Jake replied. It still amazed him that he had somehow become the unofficial human representative to the Cytherian refugee network. That evening, Jake and Zara sat together on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. The asteroid field had become home to the first joint human Cytherian settlement, with refugee families arriving every week to start new lives. Do you ever regret it? Zara asked, resting her head on Jake's shoulder. Giving up your old life to be with me? Jake thought about New Haven Station, about his small quarters and dangerous job in the scrapyard. Then he thought about Katie, who was now fully recovered thanks to a new treatment developed by Cytherian doctors, who had been so grateful for Jake's help that they had treated his sister for free. Never, he said, wrapping his arm around Zara. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Zara's skin glowed warm gold in the starlight. I love you, Jake Martinez. I love you too, Zara of Centauri Colony, Jake replied. Around them, the lights of their growing settlement twinkled like earthbound stars. each one representing a family that had found hope in the darkness. And somewhere in the distance, more ships were arriving, carrying refugees who had heard the story of the human who saved an alien girl from a scrapyard. And the love that grew between them it was the beginning of something beautiful.